Hello everybody. My name is Bennet Tchaikovsky. I'm the accounting professor, and I'm really excited here to have Justin with us here today. Justin, although he's not a student of mine, apparently and allegedly he used the videos that are on this channel to help him with his journey. And Justin is a former Trojan. You got to fight on. So Justin, and obviously is a full-time instructor at Irvine Valley College. I'm really all about like my students transferring successfully. So if you can maybe talk about how your journey started at, high school, community college, how you found accounting, maybe just kind of get us started on that.
Yeah, of course. So, well, hi everyone. My name is Justin. So right now, I just graduated from USC last May. So
Wow,
yeah, it's been a year. So right after I graduated, I've been working, in the local tax firm doing tax. But right now, I'm at KPMG doing deal advisory. So that
nice.
focuses more on M&A. And so, in high school, CPA was never in my mind. I was doing pre-med. No, I went to yeah, I went to community college, and then I was like thinking about, okay, how many more school do I need to do? And I saw the average, student loan that people need to carry right after the med school. I was like 500K somewhere around that. I was like, I don't want that. So that's why, after 1 year in pre-med at Mountain Central College, and I, took some personal finance class, learn more about federal income tax. And I was like, oh, I love tax. And then what's the closest major to tax would be accounting, and then two more accounting classes. And eventually I found out about USC and transferred to USC. Yeah.
That's awesome. So with your as far as like your transfer process goes, and I know USC is really funky because they won't accept if you're transferring to USC, they will not accept financial. You have to take financial and managerial accounting at your local community college, but they want to make sure that they take their version of it, which I think is BAUD. Is it 305, something like
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that class and how you were successful in it?
Yeah, definitely. And at that time, when I'm preparing the transfer, I think at that time the agreement would be, I get C. That's
Hmm.
between CC and also UC. So
Right.
that was my primary goal. Because I thought the private school is would not be affordable, but that's different story that we can definitely talk about it after. But
Sure.
essentially, I only focus more on make sure I hit criteria for UC transfer.
Hmm.
So luckily, fortunately enough for me, I took both financial and also managerial accounting. And then essentially they want us to, I mean, all the transfer students, including Marshall students, which is,
Yes.
if you're transferring as a business students, you still need to take, 305, which is the bridge
Yeah.
accounting again at USC. And in terms of a class, I would say some people, it really depends on how USCC prepare you.
Right.
Monsai, I feel like they really prepare us, so it was the transition is really smooth. But I
Yeah.
know for some, I was talking to this for 305 professor at USC. So essentially, they are saying like, hey, the reason why we have this bridge accounting course because we don't know how how did professor teach you guys in terms of financial accounting, managerial accounting, but
No,
essentially,
Justin, I could, yeah, you're absolutely, I mean, I can tell you what's really fascinating. I have a few stories about it too, but what's really fascinating though is that I actually changed the way that I taught because I used to allow when I first started teaching, I told students, oh, you can bring in like a half a sheet of paper. And when I talked to one of my students who had started at Marshall, and she said, Bennett, like I just forgot too many things. I go, so I'm going to take that sheet of paper away. And since then, my students have done really, really well. But I absolutely, I actually taught part-time at Chapman, and I also taught part-time at Cal State Fullerton. And what I also observed, like when I was at Fullerton, teaching intermediate accounting, the very first exam I give in intermediate is like, okay, here's an unadjusted trial balance. If I tell you what needs to be adjusted, can you make a multi-step income statement? Can you make a statement of retained earnings? And can you make a classified balance sheet, which for accounting should be pretty easy to do. And like the number of students that fail that initial exam is just like shocking. So,
Mhm.
shout out to you for successfully doing the course. And, obviously when you do take any kind of accounting class, you want to kind of make sure you get beat up earlier on so that when it comes to the CPA exam or whatever may have you, you do a little bit better. So, but that's awesome. So obviously, transferring academically, obviously USC, University of Superior Choice, oh, excuse me, yeah, University of Southern California. It's obviously it's a highly, highly regarded accounting program. So did you become part of Leventhal, or were you always in Marshall, or how did you find like the other accounting classes that were there?
So when I transferred in, I think a lot of time they didn't have the choice for you to transfer it right into Leventhal school,
Okay,
which is major in accounting. But I think they do now. So at that time, I transfer into business. But no, I made sure I talked to the accounting advisor, say, hey, no, no, I'm here for accounting degree. So no, told me how can I do that? So no, eventually I pivoted from Leventhal from Marshall to Leventhal, and then just finish my degree over there. But I think for now, people can apply to Leventhal directly. And
right.
then even if you transferring as a marshal, no major probably like emphasis in finance, you can still no if you want to do no accounting and finance, you can always do that too.
That's awesome. And by the way, like one of the things I've always heard about USC, and I know that when I was teaching at Chapman, one of the first things they told me at Chapman, which I completely agree with, and they said, okay, for you as a professor, if you're not here for the students, you won't be here. Did you feel that kind of same attitude with faculty at USC? I mean, were the faculty there, like they're there for you, for your success? How did you find that business faculty and just like that part? Was it very supportive? Like, what did you find was your experience at USC on that front?
Yeah, I would say everyone at USC is really supportive. It's not just like only a professor. It's essentially from the deans. Essentially, top down culture. From the deans. They are really supportive. A few of my friends. They would schedule a meeting with dean and then to talk about their life. I was like, how?
Wow.
They just shoot an email and then dean's like, no, yeah, talk to my secretary. Let's book something and then submit, right? And same thing with professors. They always talk about like come to office hours. Even if you cannot make it, they are willing to meet virtually.
Wow.
And then that essentially that culture, that environment got carried down to student as well. People who are willing to told you how to do things, help you as well. So the overall environment of this in Leventhal and Marshall, they are really supportive. People want you to succeed.
Right. And what's really fascinating, and I don't know, like, so if you go to UCLA and, obviously it's at the other school across town, if you're like pre-business economics, it's an absolute disaster because you have to get like a 3.5 in these two classes. The classes are curved down to a 2.3. You really feel like a number. But I think what a lot of transfer students don't realize about UCLA is that UCLA will absolutely exclude transfer students from certain business clubs. And again, don't believe what I'm saying, do your own research on it, but I think they want only freshmen because then the freshmen can be there for all 4 years. How did you find like the club? And I don't know if you rushed a fraternity or if you did anything like that, but how did you find like the club environment at USC? Was it really welcoming? Like, did they want you to participate in outside groups? What was that like?
So I would say in terms of a culture between Marshall and Leventhal is a bit different. So all the Leventhal clubs, we are all transfer friendly. Like the reason why is because I think like majority of us we are transfer students. So we are really friendly. But I get it for some Marshall club that we talk about finance club,
Yeah,
consulting club. Those are really a bit competitive, but it's not competitive because you are a transfer student. It's just competitive to everyone.
yeah.
So no, just thinking from freshman perspective. No, they rush. No, they trying to join this club this year, but if they didn't succeed, if they fail, they can still have that relationship. Trying to have a coffee chat continue to build that relationship. Maybe hopefully, they can go in next year. But where transfer students is, if we fail, we only have here, no, we are only here for one, 2 or 3 years, right?
Right.
So if we fail in our first semester, essentially the timeline is a lot shorter for us.
Right.
But however, no. But right now, I think Marshall will just score in general that we come like they come to see this issue. So there's a open something called open membership. So there's different tier within membership. No, all the students are all welcome to attend journal meetings. But if you want to get into a certain project, of course, one project consulting project cannot have all the people, right?
Right.
They only took a few people. So in that case, there's additional interview, additional round that you can go through. But just in terms of involvement in clubs, if you want to put your time in, go to all the journal meeting, do a coffee chat, talk to people. I'm pretty sure you'll find your way out. Yeah.
That's awesome. And what advice, so a transfer student coming into USC, as basically coming into Marshall or coming into Leventhal, what advice would you give them coming into USC? Like, what would be the best thing? Like, obviously you got to get the academics down, but like, what would you be your best advice for a transfer student heading into USC?
So I'm pretty sure people come to USC for network, right?
Yeah.
Their network. So I would probably advise them it's like, hey, the network is not just about the opportunity to build a relationship with a professional, with professor. I
Mhm.
think yes, those are important, but I think the most important assets that you're going to have is your peers.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure everyone going to USC, everyone has different route. But I'm pretty sure one of them will become CFO, one of them will become CEO, one of them will be working in big companies. Those will be your future connections.
Absolutely.
So I would say know what you want to do, but at the same time be open minded. Try different things, and you eventually will find your way out. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. I'm a gaucho, so I went to UC Santa Barbara, but I started at Cooper's and Lybrand, which is obviously now PwC, and I'm dating myself. But in my fall start class of 1991, those that were from like USC, one of them is now a pretty major partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and the other one is the CFO at SpaceX. And so USC, and I can just tell you this from at least living here in Orange County and having been, living in LA for like most of my life. I it's the networking thing is absolutely real, but you absolutely have to really kind of take steps to really try to take advantage of that, be true to yourself, be real, but obviously supporting the Trojan. It's a whole, like, I can't really talk about it because I'm not a Trojan, but my wife is. But it's one of those things that's absolutely very, very special. And as an observer of it, that's why I really see it's like an absolutely like incredible place to go to school. In terms of you didn't so what kind of leadership roles did you take like in different organizations on campus? Like what were you involved in?
Yeah, I was so the reason why I say be open-minded is because but also at the same time know what you want to do because at that time I know I'm really passionate with tax.
Hmm.
So I go in there, say, hey, I want to join Beta Alpha Psi. I want to join VITA. So Beta Alpha Psi is like one really well known accounting organizations across the nations.
Yeah.
So and then Beta Alpha Psi is I mean VITA, volunteer income tax assistance.
Yes.
It's pretty well known as well for tax assistance to help local residents family to file their taxes for free. So
Absolutely.
I'm going there. No, I want to do those two. So I invest a lot of time to it. But
Hmm.
looking back, I wish I wish I could join more club, not just beyond accounting. So essentially, I devote a lot of time to Leventhal. So I was the president for VITA and then VP of
Wow.
finance for Beta Offsite as well. And there's something called Leventhal Transfer Program (LTP).
Okay.
So I was mentor for all my semester at USC, besides the first semester where I was mentee. Yeah, and
Well,
then essentially just really involved with Leventhal, how about with the Leventhal events, be the panelists, everything like that. So it was really great, having those opportunities.
mhm.
But again, going back to my advice, like if I enjoy doing that, I love it. But if I know it's like, hey, maybe spend the 5 day with non-accounting folks,
Yeah.
that would be
It's,
nice.
it's, it's, it's good to get a variety of people around you, that's
Yes.
good. And Justin, so one of the, just to kind of take another step, like looking at obviously you're right now at a big four firm. And one of the challenges is, I think for a lot of people, and I've been on like the opportunities in big four seem to be getting less and less. And I think that's a little bit more of a function of, how should I put it, in business in general for like finance and consulting, a lot of those jobs that were around in like 2022, 2023 kind of dried out. And what I've observed is that a lot of students are going into accounting. And it's the competition is that much greater. In fact, to such an extent that like in August of last year, people were going through and recruiting, the recruiting cycle, and I made some videos about this, was for summer 27. And even right now, like when I went through, and I always give this as an example, I was interviewing in January for a June position. So 6 months. Now it's 18 months, or now it's actually almost 2 years. So I did have a student who once, and this is really speaks to the power of USC. The moment he got admitted to be basically as a spring transfer. So we started this past January. But one of the things he did is at the moment he got into USC, had that on his resume, immediately started recruiting, was able to get an internship for the summer of 2027. So with that kind of being said, like, how was your recruiting journey in terms of getting into like, because I guess you started in fall of 23.
No, actually, I start in the spring. I think spring 2023, I believe.
Okay, so
So,
so you actually were also spring transfer. Awesome. Wait,
yeah.
so how did you get your role at your like how did you go through and recruit? Like what was your journey?
I would say, so all my, career or life, I would say I'm really fortunate. The reason why I said this because going to USC, I have no idea what's going on, with accounting. It's like you'll be surprised. No, you thought no accounting is only tax and audit. Even within tax and audit, there's so many things going on.
Right.
So when I'm going to job posting, I was like, what was no? I remember at that time there's something called DAT that from PwC. I think it's called digital transparency, assurance transparency, something like that. And I was like, oh wait, that sounds pretty cool. Let me apply to it. And then the recruiter messaged me, like, hey, no, that's not for accounting. That's actually for CS major. People have CS background. I was like, oh, my bad. And then he said, oh, you should apply this one. I was like, yes, no, let me apply that one then. But essentially going there, I have no idea how to apply. But I know because all my peers, they are applying. No, they told me, like, hey, Justin, you need to, get your resume together and get ready for interview, stuff like that. No, I was like, yes, no, I just submitted all the resumes, and then fortunately, no, I submitted my resume and I got interview from EY and KPMG and also got
Wow.
offer from both, and
Wow.
then just talking to more people, and then I found out KPMG is more I enjoying the culture over there more, so that's
Yeah,
why I
exactly. Now
decided to go
you
there.
have to, I mean, honestly, because you're going to be working in public accounting sometimes 70 hours a week. You want to be with the people you like and do not go based on the brand name of the firm. Go with the people that you like. So that's really the most important thing because if you're working all those hours, you want to like the people that you're around. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So prior to, so you basically started in spring 23. You then essentially, obviously, you started going through the recruiting cycle. Like, what was your first meet the firms like at USC? When did that happen?
So that's really funny, because I don't see Milifan began until the end of the first month, who's January, right?
Okay.
But I submit my application. They told me you need to submit application within first 2 weeks. So
Okay.
that's what I did. There's a lot of paperwork. It's like, and then I just apply.
Yeah.
And the offer I got with KPMG is called Mbox Scholar, and I just been told no this year, it's gonna be the last year we're gonna do it. So essentially Embark Scholar is just a sophomore leadership program where we're going
Okay.
to rotate between advisory, audit, and tax. So that's how
Okay.
I got exposure to all different across different service line. So at the end, I chose that's what I did for 23 summer.
Okay.
And then that's why I found out about it. And now I say, hey, our advisory seemed pretty interesting. I didn't know about advisory before, but now gone through that internship, let me return. They allow me to choose, which one do you want to return back with? No, I say, hey, I would love to come back to deal advisory. And that's why where I did my junior internship with KPMG at which is deal advisory, with FDD, financial due diligence, and eventually that convert to a full time.
That's
So
all.
I would say in the beginning, I before no even before my interview, I don't think I have got any middle firm or any recruiting event. I don't
Wow.
even know
That's
who was
wild.
my that's why I say pretty lucky. I don't even know who was my campus recruiter at that moment. Uh yeah, but I don't think it works anymore. You definitely want to get to know your campus recruiter. No, definitely do that. So that's why I say really lucky. No,
That's awesome. So did you ever go to a Meet the Firms at USC, or did you ever go to one later, or did you?
yes, because no, because I was not acting as a mentor and also student leaders, so I need to go to those. No, I work really closely with recruiter, and then I always go to table event. And in fact, I was the campus ambassador for KPMG
Nice.
during my senior year or junior year, I forgot.
Okay.
But essentially, I was helping out with all the recruiters, events. So
Yeah.
I'm really familiar with the process. Same thing with the student leaders. Let's say another advice for everyone is doesn't matter which industry, doesn't matter which school you're going to. If you are able to get on the board of the organization, student org, do it. If you have that opportunity, do it. Maybe it's a lot of work. Maybe you think it's not relevant to you right now, but the amount of opportunity you're going to expose, you're going to expose yourself to is not tremendous.
No, Justin, I think the major mistake a lot of students make is they transfer, they lock in on academics, they don't do anything else. And then when they're about to go through and graduate, they're all, how do I get a job? And one of the things I will tell everybody, like, and I've said this pretty repeatedly, is that you have to be looking for work while you're in school. If you cannot find a job while you're in school, that's basically going to put you in a position where, okay, to make yourself more marketable, you're going to have to pass the CPA exam because then you can show employers that you're very, very serious. And I think you're not, the big four is going to be a little bit more difficult to do because they really like to do their recruiting on campus.
Yeah.
So you may need to kind of go shift towards like a lower, like a mid-level firm, smaller regional firm, just because the opportunities for big four, and again, unless you have family connections. And I can also share with you a story. I had a student who I remember having a conversation with him. He went to USC, and this was in like October of 2020. It was like something like July or August of 2022 because my son was playing volleyball up in like off the 110 and the 10 at a club called
Mm-hmm.
Rockstar. And I was talking to this, and he was from USC, and he told me, he said, well, I was making 75,000 a year for Frito-Lay. I'm a USC grad, and I just, I was just going through, and I don't want to be going to 7-Eleven and putting potato chips on the shelves. I want to do accounting. And so literally we sat down. I think he took 18 semester units of accounting, like at a bunch of different community colleges. But he's one of the few people because Ernst& Young posted on, this is the power of USC alumni, by the way. Ernst& Young posted on USC's alumni website, which you only really have access to as a Trojan, that they were looking for someone. And sure enough, he ended up working for for EY in Orange County, which is insane. And that's someone who, and that's again, I think one of the other huge advantages of going to a school like USC is just that there are like those Trojan connections. So it's, yeah, it's pretty crazy. So.
Well, I didn't know that much about the alumni network, the website. Maybe I should check it out
No,
too.
I mean, Justin, you'd be shocked. Honestly, like, by the way, any of you out there, I will probably be attending a lot of USC volleyball, men's volleyball games, just because we have some friends of ours that are on those teams, and so if you ever see me there, please come by and say hello. But I think like the other, what else did I ask you about? So in terms of like what other kind of things could you kind of obviously getting involved is really, really important to do when you're at USC, giving back, being in as many clubs as possible. What other kind of advice would you give first for like transfer students? Obviously it sounds like every like dean or whoever else you want to talk to is fully available. Like what other kind of things would you kind of like, what other advice would you give for students?
I would say no, definitely not focus on your academic, but just remember I wouldn't say no. I feel like no, this is my personal opinion. I feel like no, our culture is yes, we care about the academic, but at the same time we play hard as well. So we work hard and play hard. No, so academics, you don't need to have no perfect 4.0,
Mhm.
but you definitely need to have maintained a certain GPA.
Yeah.
Some people are saying like no 3.5. Some people are saying that 3.8. So it really depends on your angle. But personally, I feel like 3.5 or above, I feel like you are in really good shape. And then, but in terms of the involvement, there's no right or wrong answers. No, but just get yourself out there. No, get yourself. If you sometimes feel like being really comfortable, maybe it's your time to step out your comfort zone a little bit and to join different club to talk to different people, because again, there's a lot of opportunity on there. Not I don't know if I can share this, but essentially, because of my involvement with Leventhal, so I was invited to a lot of different events. One of things I love to talk to people would be Leventhal. We just have a new team. I think this year or last year. But essentially, I was part of only three students, only one of three undergrad students who get to interview the new dean. Now we
Wow.
interview. We get to meet different dean candidates, and it's like, oh my god, are you sure? And then they want our input too. I was like, are you sure our input, is going somewhere? And they say, yeah, trust me.
That's
So it
awesome.
seemed like so it's just saying like, there's a lot of going on in school. Doesn't matter if you know it or not, but just talking to people, you say, oh yeah, that sounds pretty cool. How can I get involved? No, people are willing to share resource with you.
That's awesome. And the other thing I meant to ask you about, and I've heard this from students at both UCLA, UCI, and also from like USC, is that there seem to be a lot of international students that are at these schools and they're on an F1 visa, which for especially now with the new rules in terms of working visas that if you're on an F1 visa, to get converted to an H1B visa is near next to impossible. I mean, it's extremely, extremely difficult to do. And did you see like, were there like at the different events, were there a lot of international students there, or what was your kind of sense of how were they involved in the recruiting process? Were they not? Like, what was your kind of takeaway from, that kind of part of the experience?
Yeah, so although I'm not F1 student myself, thanks God, because using recruiting in accounting or just recruiting in general is really difficult. For F1 students, it's a whole different game.
Yeah.
They work really hard, for sure. They got really good grade. They are involved with almost everything. I think the current bad president for USC, she's an international student, but this is something that you cannot control.
Yeah.
During my years, F1, like I think at that time, only two of the big four sponsor F1 students,
Yeah.
and then like at that time when they got offer, they got their full-time offer, no problem. And actually they are working as a first year associate right now. And
Wow.
actually a few of my no not colleagues, a few of my friend, my classmate who's on F1, they all got H1B.
Wow.
Yeah, they all got not all of them, but I think there's about three or four of them. Which is I was shocked. It's like I was like, are you happy about it? And it's like, yeah, it's great, to get H1B, but to them is yes, it's kind of difficult to get essentially it's lottery. You need
Oh
to get
no,
really
I
lucky.
think what's kind of crazy now is like with the new rules for H-1B visas,
Yeah.
and I think it's even almost even more challenging to actually make that happen. And just kind of your point as well, like in my entire time at Irvine Valley, I had one student who went to Cal Poly Sloan. She was able to get an H-1B visa. It may have been from KPMG. I can't remember, but what made her so unique was that she spoke both Mandarin and Japanese fluently. And a lot of it at the time, there was like an Asia Pacific practice and most of the downtown firms, and they want people that spoke Japanese. And I've also seen the same thing with for Korean speaking students that that's also in demand at some firms. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think though that I think especially today that that's going to be like more the exception than anything else. But I mean, I think what's nice though about most all the universities is they still have a very welcoming. I mean, they're welcoming towards everyone, whether you're an international student, whether you're from the United States, out of state, whatever may have you. So it's great. And by the way, I've got to ask also a couple of more things I wanted to ask you. So when did you become an enrolled agent?
Oh, yeah. Wait, before I talk about my EA, I just
Sure.
want to talk a little bit more on international. So yes, no, for all my international students out there, don't think about Big Four is the only way. Try every possible way. And one thing really nice about USC because we have connection of around the world. So our recruiter, no, not recruiter, our career center, they actually it's like, hey, they actually talk to our international students saying, hey, there's opportunity in Singapore, there's opportunity in Hong Kong, go try it out. There's
Oh,
opportunity in Canada, go try it out. And actually, no, a lot of them now going overseas. And now I'll be really sad, miss them, but no, they got the career elsewhere. So I'm really happy
yeah,
for
no,
them.
you have to go where the work is. I mean, unfortunately, I think a lot of people are going to start working in Nashville and Birmingham, Alabama soon because we've seen to push out all the business here in LA. So there or in California. So there you go. But yeah, so just kind of but going back to how did you become an enrolled agent?
So that was during my first year in VITA. I was talking
Yeah.
to Professor Valdez. So essentially, it's like during my year, my first tax season, I was tax preparer, and then just helping people around, and then essentially it's like no, of course the second one the professor got really busy. So whenever there's a questions, I can't hold the people around me. It's like, hey, answer this question. So soon I got promoted to quality reviewer. So not really lucky, not really fortunate, and just help out to queue out everything. And towards the end of tax season, I was thinking, I was talking to professors like, hey, no, I want to take this further. What should I do next? What can I do? So he said, yeah, no, have you heard about EA? Have you heard about
So
CPA?
was this, by the way, was this a tax professor at USC or was this one
Oh,
at,
coming college,
okay. Oh, wow.
a
Okay.
month, yeah.
Awesome.
And he said, yeah, no, I think you should continue and then try to go for CPA and try to go for EA. And I look into CPA. Unfortunately, you cannot uh, do your CPA exam now until 6 months before you graduate. Now
Exactly.
with the
No,
bachelor degree.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I honestly think it would really be cool if they allowed you to take the exam like during like your June, like right after you take intermediate, because I mean, oh my God, like that would just make life a lot easier. So
Definitely.
it's
Yeah.
crazy, crazy. Yeah. So, okay, awesome. So did you take like a review course for the enrolled agent? How did you prepare for it?
So it's like no, I took individual. So there's three parts. So I using the review course.
Which I was just gonna, which review course did you use? Did you use Gleim? Did you use like Surgeon? Did you use, which one
I
did
think
you
yeah, at
tax?
that
Or,
yeah, those are kind of like expensive, at that time for me. I think those are a couple thousand. So at that time, I was using Passkey. I think
okay.
that's a month. I think they merged with Hawk with another review course, but essentially that's a monthly subscription. Like each month,
Okay.
like at that time it's like $45. I think right now it's like
Nice.
50 or 60. So it's like I told myself, hey, I'm pretty sure I can get it done within 1 or 2 months. No, only spend like a couple hundreds. Why you want to spend a couple thousand, right?
Yeah,
So I took
absolutely.
so the first one I took individual. No, that was super. No, I wouldn't say super easy, but I was really familiar with it because I took federal income tax for individual, and also I just finished VITA, so everything's
Yeah,
new to me. So I passed, of course. I was like, yeah, let's move on to corporate tax. That's where everything got a bit difficult. I honestly, I have no idea how I passed, but
yeah.
I passed in the first try. And then,
Wait. By the way, so when you after you so obviously then you did that, and then you did obviously the tax policies and procedures. So I've got to ask, when you were recruiting and you had EA behind your name, were like recruiters going like, "What the heck? Like, how are you an enrolled agent?" Were they saying did that come up during interviews, or did anybody ask?
so the funny thing is, I don't know if I put that on my resume
Oh,
because
I would have absolutely put it on your resume. That's crazy, dude. I mean, you took that, you can sign. I mean, what's crazy about that designation that no one really knows about it, but you can sign returns, you can represent people in front of the IRS, and you basically have the same practice rights in front of the IRS as a CPA, right? Because there's no the attorneys have the attorney-client privilege, but it's like
Mhm.
the EA and the CPA in the eyes of the IRS are exactly the same. That's
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I put so at that time when I transferred to USC when I recruit, I only passed two part because for the third part, people are saying like no, it's the easiest one. But I went to take it. I failed on that one. It's like that seems not easy at all, and that it's not easy at all. So I didn't really finish. That we can definitely talk about it after. But essentially, I going to recruit with no, two portion, no, two proper exam pass, and I
wow.
don't know if I put on the exam. Maybe I did, but they didn't ask me any question about it.
Okay.
And in fact, no, I think it's probably because my interviewer is also from audit as well.
Yeah.
I talked to recruiter about this, different recruiter from different firms. They say, no, that definitely shows that you are serious about tax. No, like
And I think it
yeah,
also kind of also means that you're going to at least have a pretty good shot of passing reg and TCP on the first shot,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So, by the way, how's your CPA exam journey going along? How's that coming? I don't know. I'm not going to try to put you on the spot. I'm just asking, like, how's that coming along?
Yeah, I mean, good thing with the year experience, I was fortunate enough to finish CPA already. So I took two CPA exam before I graduate, and then took
Great.
one right after my graduation, and then took one with working while working full time. So I'm all
Okay.
finished, and then actually, in fact, I just submit my I got my 1 year working experience. Just submit my application. I think last week. Yeah,
There we go, man. That's awesome, dude. Congratulations. Like, so
thank
as
you.
long as the fingerprints come back clean, you'll be okay.
Yeah. Actually, that's one thing I can't worry about. I'm joking.
It's all, dude. It's like, I mean, honestly, I would say for anybody who's out there, like, if there's something that you did in the past, you want to make sure everything's disclosed. That's really like the key thing. So it's like, there you go. Wow, that's awesome, man. Cool, man. So, like, as far as like, so, like, kind of, so obviously you're probably sad to like leave USC. By the way, when you were at SC, did you get to go to like football games? Like, did you do any of the sports stuff, or like what kind of outside of campus activities were you doing?
No, definitely go to the football game, here and there, but I'm not, the season pass. Yeah, I mean, it's which affordable compared to, regular price as a students, but still a little bit pricey for me. So I only gone to like 1 or 2 games with my friends, and then, but the tailgates, definitely fun experience.
Yeah,
Definitely you should go to that one. Different club they will host, different, their own tailgates. So definitely
right.
enjoying that one too. But a lot of my friends that we would go to gym to play volleyball, basketball together. But I'm not that huge into sport during college.
Yeah,
So I wasn't that involved, but I know all my friends they do different things. I think they even to some selling cars to do some selling in the morning. I was like, that's crazy.
wow.
But definitely a lot of fun, fun activity that you can do. Golfing, I think someone took ping pong. I think, maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong, but this definitely different sport that you can do.
By the way, USC men's volleyball is awesome because it's like a $10 admission. and the parking lot, which I think is like right next to like the USC hotel, is maybe like
Mhm.
$15, right? So
Yeah.
overall, like you can't get for Dodger Stadium that might buy you a drink. I mean, it's insane. Like the pricing, it's like it's absolutely like the best deal in town. So
Definitely.
that's awesome. And I was gonna say, what? So did you like? So as far as like the nightlife and obviously going outside of the USC bubble, right, can be a little bit dangerous, right? So what kind of things did you do? Like, did you go exploring in LA, or what kind of things would you guys do on the weekend? Would everybody vacate on Thursday night, go home on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then they would come back on Sunday, or what kind of like outside of school, like what kind of things were you doing?
I mean, I would just like follow my friends.
Oh,
Like I'm not in no, it's I don't really explore LA not that much. So honestly, I just really rely on my friend, rely on all my friends. Like they say, hey Justin, have you seen the TikTok or have you seen this Instagram post about this one? I was like, no, I'm not really on social media. Tell me more about it. It's like, no, let's give it a try. It's like, no, yeah, of course, no, we go try it out. And there's me, I really love matcha, so I gone to a lot of good matcha place now. But yeah, and also Cape Town definitely one. And in terms of nightlife, I I'm not that involved, but I do go to parties, hosted
yeah,
by different clubs, but I'm not really that into different nightlife. Yeah.
good. Your liver is okay, which is
Yes. Yeah.
good. It's awesome.
At least for now. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I mean, Justin, like, so thank you. And I'm not, oh, but the last thing I was going to ask you, so from watching my videos, like, what part of like you reached out to me and it's like, what video did you watch of mine or what was it the 150 semester unit requirement or what helped you with your journey towards becoming a CPA?
Yes, it's actually the 150 units, the that
Good.
video one. Actually I seen I email you. It's like, hey, can you look at my I think it's Google spreadsheet. It's like, can
Oh,
you
did I do
look at
it?
all
Did
my
I do
class?
it? Did I do a mapping for you?
Yes,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, Judd, what's really a trip is I literally like, and I say this on my channel, it's like, I mean, anybody who wants it, right? I'll send you a Google sheet. You fill it out, right, with all your classes, which you're going to know how to do better than me. And then it takes me probably under about 4 to 5 minutes to go through to sort it. And
Wow.
then once that's up, actually, I probably do it like in under like 3 minutes. But like once it's basically sorted, I then basically send you back that email saying, okay, yeah, you can sit for the exam like at this point in time, like right here. So that's awesome.
Mhm.
By the
It's
way,
the,
by the way, on the CPA exam, did you end up taking TCP as your optional part?
yeah.
Cool. And did you use Becker's CPA review for that, or what did you use? What CPA review did you use?
So I use both Becker and UWorld.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. How did you learn about UWorld?
I'm the campus ambassador.
Oh, nice. Oh, perfect. Okay. Okay. So here's a great question for you. And obviously, I'm not going to put you on the spot because do you know Charlotte Roberts?
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah, Charlotte. Yeah, no, I know Charlotte very well. So, or actually, I've spoken with her numerous times, right? One of the challenges I think with Becker is because they were acquired by private equity in 2022 and Peter Olinto like left in 2023.
Yeah.
I think even to this day, Becker is using some of Peter's videos, which by the way are absolutely amazing. But those videos are now something like 3 years old, and the CPA exam was completely redone on January 2024. Did you find that the UWorld material like was more like what was your kind of your own experience? Because and let me preface this by saying for anybody who's considering buying a CPA review course, don't listen to me. Don't listen to Justin. Get your own free trial and make sure it's the best course for you because it can get very, very expensive, right?
Mhm.
There are like monthly plans with like Ninja, but what was your kind of like on your take on you on the two courses because you had access to both of them?
Yeah, I would say no. Of course, don't listen to my. This is all my personal
Yeah,
opinion.
this is
Personal.
all of right. This is our
Yeah,
opinion. Yeah.
yeah. And then if the firm offer you, Becker for free, you will for free, or anything else for free, definitely use that one. No, you don't
No.
want to pay this out of pocket. But I think in terms of at that time, I think one thing I really enjoyed the UWorld material more.
Mhm.
But one thing I feel like come useful towards the end of my study for TCP in terms of Baker is they got really nice AI function, the chat bot that you can ask the questions. I just found it really cool, but personally I never really use it because no, I almost finish my study at that time.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure you will probably come up with something
I
similar.
think they already have. I think they
They
already
already
have
have it.
something out there. Yeah, they've got something out
Nice.
there. They have to also, by the way, they have to be really careful because I think it's
Mhm.
like the AI CPA releases questions to all of those review courses,
Correct.
and if I think you actually the AI CPA basically makes you the review course basically say that you will not use AI to generate questions. Now that can't stop a student from using AI to generate questions, but the review courses are pretty strict on that. So I think if you
Mhm.
had like some AI chatbot, it's probably going to be relatively tame. So yeah, awesome, man. Well, Justin, hey, look, and we'll hang on. Once I stop recording, we'll hang out for a little bit and talk. But anyways, Justin, thank you so much for being here today, and for obviously, you can probably find, well, you're obviously not on social media, but if you want to leave a comment below in this video and you want to get a hold of Justin, like let me know and I can try to figure out some way to connect you. But Justin, thank you so much for sharing your experiences today with going to USC and best of luck to you in the future and congratulations on becoming a certified public accountant. It's a huge, huge achievement. So there you go, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the
Okay.
invite. Pretty nice.
Absolutely.